The ramp of the transport plane slammed down with a metallic groan, spitting Staff Sergeant Kara Holt into the biting wind of Forward Operating Base Ironveil. For 3 seconds, the whole outpost seemed to pause. Then the air closed in thin, sharp, laced with diesel and the taste of snow still waiting to fall. No welcoming party, no salute. Just the hollow chorus of a place too busy surviving to notice one more transfer. 2 privates hauling fuel cans gave her a glance fatigues too loose, too plain. Their eyes flicked to the patch on her shoulder, a logistics unit dissolved 3 years ago. Forgotten paper pushers, a duffel bag on her arm. To them, she was misfiled cargo, a clerk lost in the storm. Their smirks followed her until her stride broke. On the perimeter fence, a jacket flapped in the wind, a faded M65 collar matted from years of wear, sun-bleached seams, the outlines of patches long torn away. Someone had hung it up like a banner, not for honor, for cruelty, for the laugh of seeing if she would break. Relic's older than she is. A corporal jeered, tossing a rock. Laughter rippled, thin and mean. The sleeves swayed as if in surrender. But Kara didn't flinch. She just walked on, boots whispering over gravel, silence heavier than rebuke. The jokes withered in their throats. In the prefab barracks. Fire flickered from a barrel, the ritual of burning old gear to clear space. Her jacket had been chosen. She remembered the night it was first draped on her shoulders. A voice had said, "You earned this. Specter 7. Wear it well. Jet fuel. Altitude." The faces of those who bore that name beside her gone now. Everyone. She lowered herself to the bunk. Expression carved from stone. The air stank of char and history. No one spoke. They all felt it. They had touched something they shouldn't have. Minutes later, in an office cold as its occupant, Colonel Rourke Davenport flipped through her file. 3 pages, nearly all blacked out. No history, no commendations, no failures, just a rank that didn't belong. Mysteries were liabilities. He despised them. Kara stood parade still before his desk. Her calmness wasn't passive, it was predatory. He tried to provoke her with clipped insults. Nothing. Finally, he snapped the folder shut. Logistics duty, counting crates, inspecting bootlaces. Her reply was one word. Level and unbreakable crystal. Dismissed. She left the office. Davenport lingered, staring at the ghost file for the first time in years. The colonel felt it. He might have just made a dangerous mistake. Soldiers, sound off. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next mission. The logistics warehouse was a cavern of cold steel and neglect. Dust motes spun in weak shafts of light, cutting through grime-streaked windows. Pallets sagged under the weight of winter gear with seams gone brittle. Crates of old radio batteries sat stacked in rows like forgotten tombstones. It was the kind of place commanders sent people they wanted to vanish. For Staff Sergeant Kara Holt, it felt like sanctuary. SFC Darrell Hines, a man whose belly strained the buttons of his uniform, gave her a curt tour and handed over a stained clipboard as if it were a sentence. "Here's the inventory list." He grunted. "It's probably wrong. Count stuff. Yell if you find the crate of coffee filters we misplaced last month." Then he retreated to his heated office to nurse lukewarm coffee and practice not seeing her. Holt did not simply count. She moved through the depot with a methodical intensity that unsettled the junior soldiers assigned to her. Chaos yielded to order under her hands. She stacked not by size but by mission priority, stamped dates into a neat rotation, and checked heater packs for integrity. MREs were not just tallied. She checked seals and rotated stock so the oldest packs would be used first. The work ran deeper when others left. Her real job began. At the back of the warehouse, she found the turned-in weapons standard M4 carbines layered in dust. Optics cloudy from neglect. She carried them to a rough bench. laid them out with surgical rhythm and stripped each to component level. Her hands knew the anatomy of each part: gas tube, bolt, extractor. She cleaned away carbon like an artisan removing years of ash. She oiled springs, retorqued screws, and calibrated laser sights against a chalk mark on the far wall. When she returned the rifles to the arms room, they no longer fit the label standard issue. They were precision tools humming with menace. Specialist Noah Brenner noticed first: quiet, watchful. He saw patterns where others saw routines. He saw Holt in the mess not eating, merely observing the way she cataloged leaders and weak links. He watched her in the comms tent, ostensibly verifying radio batteries, while her eyes traced patrol routes across the tactical map, noting bottlenecks and drift lines. He found her on the perimeter during a light snowfall, statue still as she read the wind, tracing how sound would ride the drifts. One evening he approached the bench as she worked the charging handle on a cleaned carbine. The empty rifle clicked like a metronome. "That's Corporal Cobb's." "Right." He said it was jamming. She didn't look up. "Fouled gas tube," she said simply. She worked it once, twice the sound, crisp and exact. It won't jam now. When she finally met his eyes, the appraisal was clinical, not unkind. "You're good at that," Brenner said, suddenly off balance. "It's important work." She answered the same words the colonel had spat with contempt, but this time the phrase sat like truth. Holt wasn't preparing inventories. She was mapping vulnerabilities, learning the base's rhythms in case the quiet they all took for granted turned out to be a lie. Outside, the air pressure slipped unnoticed at first, a soft fall in the barometer that the weather corporal shrugged off as nothing. In an hour, the whisper grew teeth, a wind that tasted like trouble and pulled at the fences. Holt paused in the doorway, listening as if something far beyond the depot had finally found their beating heart. The storm had erased the horizon. Fob Ironveil lay trapped inside a white coffin, the blizzard pounding its walls like an artillery barrage. Inside the Tactical Operations Center, the storm's echo was chaos. Radios hissed, keyboards clattered, officers barked questions with no answers. Davenport's voice cut through it all. "Status on Argus." "Still dark, sir," came the reply. "Skycliff Ridge is offline. Total blackout." The words pressed down on the room like weight on a chest. Argus wasn't just another relay. It was their early warning, the single eye that watched Black Mesa Valley. Without it, they were deaf and blind. Ground Team 1 Lieutenant pushed. Davenport's eyes flared. In this whiteout, they'd be corpses inside an hour. "Air assets?" another asked. The liaison captain didn't bother lifting his head. "Negative. Can't even put up a drone." "You want a crash report, not reconnaissance." Every option collapsed in smoke. The storm howled harder, rattling the TOC's steel frame, and Brenner felt it. Same as Holt had days ago, this wasn't weather. This was a curtain, pulled for an enemy's stage. The thought became fact when Brenner's comms board lit faint green. He bent low, filtering static. "Sir, picking up encrypted chatter, hostile frequency. It's growing stronger." The room stilled. "Location Davenport," snapped. Brenner swallowed. "Origin point, Black Mesa Valley." The silence that followed was heavier than the storm. They weren't just blind. They were being watched. The infiltrators, PMC veterans trained like Spetsnaz, were moving under the storm's cloak. Wolves circling the pen. Panic rippled under the surface of the room. No one spoke it aloud, but the look in their eyes said the same thing: "We're trapped." Davenport's pacing grew harsher, boots clanging on the deck plates. His mind cycled through desperate contingencies, collapsed the perimeter inward. Easier for the enemy to hammer. Patrols on lines, a relic of trench wars. Useless here. Every plan led to slaughter. Then the TOC's steel door slammed open. A vortex of snow and cold punched into the room. Men flinched, throwing up arms. In the doorway stood Holt. Black Ops gear hugged her frame, goggles dark with stormlight. Snow crusted on her shoulders like frost on armor. She pulled back her hood, face unreadable. and let the silence burn before she spoke. "You can't see the valley, but I can take you there." The room froze. Officers exchanged looks, half disbelief, half relief they wouldn't admit. Brenner's gut clenched. He had known she was waiting for something. This was it. And in that moment, Davenport realized the outcast he'd shoved into a logistics shed was now the only piece left on the board. The storm howled again, like it knew the game had changed. A figure filled the TOC doorway, backlit by a sheet of white fury. The door slammed, cutting off the storm's scream. Every head turned. It was Holt, yet nothing like the logistics sergeant they thought they knew. She wore matte black ops gear that drank the light. No straps loose, no wasted weight, just tight lines. A suppressed HK-416C across her back, optics glowing faint. Storm-dark goggles erased her face. She was more weapon than woman. The room went silent. Soldiers who mocked her jacket now stared like they were seeing a myth step into the light. Holt crossed the floor with predatory calm, boots whispering over steel. She stopped at the tactical map where Skycliff Ridge pulsed red with blackout. Gloved fingers traced the contour lines. North face, sheer, near vertical. Wind shear will peel skin, but it's direct. The basin is compromised. I can reach the relay in 97 minutes. Officers gaped. Davenport wanted to snap unauthorized gear. No orders, but the words froze when he met her stance certainty. Unshakable. His command was sinking. And she'd just thrown him a rope. "Who the hell are you?" someone whispered. She ignored it. Her eyes locked on Davenport. She wasn't asking for permission. She was giving him a choice: cling to protocol and watch Ironveil fall, or trust the ghost standing in his TOC. Davenport's jaw clenched. At last. He nodded once. "Go." Holt pulled her hood up, turned, and vanished into the storm. The silence she left behind was heavier than the wind outside. A green pulse flared on Brenner's monitor, an encrypted tracker Holt had pressed into his palm. For the colonel's eyes only. Every officer leaned in, the world narrowing to that dot. It cleared the fence, climbed north, straight up Skycliff's frozen wall. No hesitation, no wasted motion. Not a human fighting a storm, something built to master it. She's scaling the cliff face. A lieutenant whispered, "No ropes, no anchors." Davenport said nothing. His gaze stayed welded to the green pulse. The dot rose higher. Brenner read vitals, heart steady, core temperature stable. Holt wasn't surviving. She was thriving. Soldiers crowded into the TOC, drawn like moths to flame. Even the corporal who had hung her jacket outside stared, realizing the relic he mocked belonged to the Specter, now climbing where no man dared. 100 meters. 2. 3. 97 minutes after she left. The dot reached the summit. The storm battered her like claws of ice. Ahead loomed the Argus relay, armored bones rimed with frost. Through goggles tuned for chaos, Holt saw it instantly. The conduit from the geothermal generator had been ripped open, scorched by heat. Sabotage. She keyed her comm, voice steady. "Davenport. This is Holt. I'm at the relay. Conduit severed. This was deliberate. Beginning repairs." She snapped out a thermal cutter, sparks bright against the blizzard. Her hands worked fast, precise. Then goggles caught new heat blooms, 4 signatures. Moving fast. Skirmish line, climbing from the far side. "Colonel," Holt said. Voice still level. 4 hostiles converging. The TOC froze. Davenport's gut went cold. He hadn't sent a soldier to fix a machine. He had sent one woman into war. "Holt, pull back," he barked. "That's a direct command." She didn't move. Eyes flicked from sparking conduit to enemy shapes closing inside 50 meters. One calculation cut through the storm: if the relay died, Ironveil was blind. The enemy would strike unseen. Hundreds of lives balanced on the wires in her hands. Her decision was already made. Her own life was just another variable in the equation. A silence dragged across the comms, stretching into eternity inside the TOC. Then her voice returned, hard as the ice clawing the ridge. Negative. Colonel, the asset is critical. The cutter clipped to her belt. In one fluid motion, Holt drew the HK-416C, engaging. The line stayed open. The storm roared. Then came a sharper rhythm-suppressed thump, thump, thump. Precise and merciless. Davenport's barked order drowned in static. Holt wasn't evacuating. She was hunting, through goggles. The world became a digital battle space. 4 infiltrators glowed orange against frozen blue. They thought she was a stranded tech. That was their first mistake. She slid left, folding into the storm. Snow shredded her outline. The point man swept his rifle across empty white. Holt was already behind him. One suppressed burst he dropped, erased from her display. 2 clustered together, panicked, fatal. Holt cut wide. 2 bursts, 2 more down. The 4th spun, muzzle flashing wild, firing into nothing. He fell seconds later, precision ending his chaos. Only one remained. He dove behind the relay struts, screaming into his radio. Holt let him cower. The mission mattered more. She slung her weapon, reignited the cutter, sparks showering against the storm. Inside the TOC, Brenner's screen pulsed with her tracker. Davenport snapped, break the seal, my codes. Keystrokes rattled, warnings flashed, access denied. Then the override hit. A crest bled onto the monitor, 3 jagged heads. The Revenant's sigil. Brenner's voice cracked as he read. Top secret. Code word. Project Revenant. Operative designation Specter 7. Status active. Tier 1 direct action. Asymmetric warfare. Autonomous. Disavowable. The words detonated in the room. Revenant rumor. Myth suddenly real. And standing on their ridge. On Skycliff. The last infiltrator crept from cover, rifle leveled at Holt's back. She didn't turn. You have one chance to drop your weapon. His nerve broke, he fired wide. She spun, not with the cutter, but with the SIG Mk-25. One suppressed round, his shape winked out. Hostiles neutralized. Relay online. The dead screen flared alive. Black Mesa Valley bloomed into clarity. Dawn lit the snow in pale fire. Ironveil was no longer blind. Relief swept the TOC. Davenport stared at the monitor Specter 7, realizing the truth. He hadn't been sent dead weight. He'd buried a legend. When Holt returned through Ironveil's gates, the base froze. Work stopped. Chatter died. Soldiers stared. No cheering, just silence, understanding too heavy for words. Outside the TOC, Davenport stood rigid. He should have reprimanded her. Instead, slowly, deliberately, he raised his hand. The salute was perfect. Absolute a commander saluting someone beyond command. Holt gave only a nod. Not salute. Acknowledgement. She passed, leaving him in the snow. Hand still raised, later, in her bare quarters. She stripped her gear, cleaned her sidearm with a ritual calm. Brenner set down a mug of coffee. He didn't say Specter 7. He didn't whisper Revenant. He just said, glad you're back. Sergeant, for the first time in years. Holt allowed herself a smile. The jacket was gone, but in its place, she wore something new, respect. And, outside, the mountains no longer loomed. Ironveil had a ghost watching over it now.